That is my mother, and she was writing a letter to her mother, grandmother Rodriguez, telling about an historic occasion that was happening on our farm. We'd had bullocks, had them out, and they'd been, as you read in the notice there, that they'd served the Amber family for 100 years, and this era was coming to an end. Some of us should have thought it should have ended a long time ago, but at last we made the move. But we had a little bit of work to do, a bit of scrub to doing, so that we thought we'd make a film of it. So we hurried up one day and got ready, and away we went. So Dad went out to get the bullocks. You'll see there the bullocks coming down the track and into the yard. The bullocks all had names, and they all knew their places in the team, and they were yoked up in the yard. My dad is yoking them up now. They put the bow, that's the yoke going on over their shoulders. The bow comes up underneath their neck, up through the bow, and pins are put in through a slot in the bow to hold them up from falling down. They can't get away. And then they're hooked with a chain runs from the leaders. That's the leaders he's put the yokes on. He's hooking the leads onto the polers, and the polers onto the rest of the team. They go out and they're lined up, and then Dad lines them up. It's got to turn around and back them into the dray. Now the whip was quite a funny thing. You work what I could make out of it. You work it like the gear handle of a motor car. Of course, motor car have got to be driven, and the bullocks get to know the whip. It's not very cruel. It's just a method of persuading. Once they've learnt it, they don't need it. They watch the whip, and the position the whip's held in, that is what the signal they obey. They've hooked in the dray, turned around, off going up Woodcock's Gully to a property we had adjoining the Toolunga Park property, and Dad has got to go back and get his lunch. We take the lunch out and have an alfresco lunch at lunchtime. It's too far to come home. Goes over, and that's my mother. She comes out and meets him and just calls him, reminds him that he hasn't done his duty. In those days you always kissed your wife goodbye because you didn't know how long you'd be away. And there we're going past the tank and out the gate, up past a big blue gum tree, and down into Woodcock's Gully. That was a gully that led a track away over to the other property. Soon the gully, now it was hemmed in by uncleared land, and there was wattles up there. You just couldn't walk through them. They were that thick. It's far better to ride in the bullock dray than try and walk alongside of it. In the fork of the gully there was some timber had been fallen, and Dad just wanted to show off there to see if he could stop the dray on top of the log. That was good control over your bullocks if he could do that. Because he couldn't quite manage it, but we didn't stop to see if he could. Over the range and into a property we called Del Roma. And that's coming down into Del Roma. That was a scrub block we bought for £4 an acre. And we'd give it a name. We took the first letter off each of our names. It was David, Eva, Lloyd, Ray, Rex, Ollie, Murray, Amber. So we called it Del Roma. And that's Dad spying out a nice few trees, looking somewhere to pull some out to show the method we did it. Now, having selected those trees out on the skyline, we moved all the tackle, which is double and triple pulley blocks, and I had to put the anchor on and do the climbing. Climbed up the trees. We put the rope up. The higher up the rope you got, the better purchase you got, and you needed to be well up on some of those big trees. and then the bullocks are taken around and hooked on the end of the line and pulled away from the tree. There they are, taking up the strain. Now they've really got to pull. This is where they get the command to pull, heave, gee up, Bluey. And you gradually see the tree yield and then crash to the ground. And then they have to try to pull the tree out of the hole. So then it's a matter of unhook, come back, pull the tackle off from out under the tree and move back to the next one. All the land you can see there was cleared by the bullocks, and this was a few left out that we thought should come out. The bullocks were handy because they knew how to pick and walk their way over the logs and stumps and rubbish that was laying on the ground. And now we've picked out another one. It was a twin tree, but we decided to pull it in two halves. There's the first half coming out, no trouble at all. And then the wood is sawn up, carted away. We sold a lot of wood to the Cuddly Creek coal stores. They used to run the engine to drive the coal stores, and develop. All that wood was turned into charcoal, which gave off steams and gases which drove the engine to freeze the apples at Cuddly Creek. So then it left the stumps. The stumps all had to be dragged into logs and what we called carbunkled one on top of the other to get them to burn. And there you'll see a stump rolling up onto the heap of other stumps. Finally it's on top, ready to come along when it was time to burn, and we would burn them. Then the bullocks had done a fair day's work, so they were taken up into the corral we had built for holding them. Normally we left them over there of a night and walked back home, and we'd come and yoke them up there the next morning. Or there was enough feed there to graze them if we didn't come back for a week. We could still just yoke the bullocks up and go on with the work. And there they are, being turned out for the last time. And Dad gives them a farewell crack with his whip. They're disappearing down into pastures green.